Kelsey. I have my hat to protect me from the elements, and today I'm going to be posting my first full book review on this channel, and that is going to be a review of Fudoki by Keej Johnson. Now, I haven't quite decided how I'm going to make the call on which books I read are going to get full reviews and which ones are just going to get mentioned in wrap-ups yet. I'm thinking I'll try to do like maybe one full review a month. We'll see. But I figure whichever way you slice it, this is too interesting a book not to get its own full review. I think the best way to describe this book is as a fantasy story within a historical fiction novel, if that makes any sense. What we have here, it takes place in the Heian period in Japan. Pardon me if I mess up pronunciations of Japanese things, but this follows an aging princess named Haruame who knows that she is dying, and so she starts to clean through her possessions and to get rid of her old trunks of belongings. And as she does this, she finds some blank notebooks and feels compelled, for reasons she doesn't really understand, to start writing in them. And the story she begins to write is the tale of a young cat who lives in the capital city not long after cats were first introduced to Japan. And there's an earthquake and a fire, and this cat loses everything: her family, her clan, the land that they live on, and their collective story. And these are the elements that comprise her so-called Fudoki, which is essentially her entire identity as a cat. So she basically loses her entire identity, and so she starts to go on a journey leaving the capital city. And along the road, she is magically transformed by powers she does not understand into a human woman. She comes to be known as Kagaya Hime, and the story within a story is the story of Kagaya Hime's journey. And as she tells Kagaya Hime's story, Haruame starts to reminisce and mull over the events of her own life as a princess in the imperial court of Japan at this period. And so the narrative sort of meanders back and forth between the story of Kagaya Hime and all of these moments and reminiscences from Harueme's life as she starts to process them sort of in preparation for her own death and try to decide what they meant to her and what did her life actually mean. And for her, this story about this cat woman who becomes a warrior is a means for her to process that. And so this is a lot about mortality and religion and life and death and love and family and meaning and story. There's a good deal about war and about journeying. And I think what's most impressive about this book is how thoroughly researched it seems to be in a time period and a culture that's so far distant to us, that's very, very specific, and yet it's really about the universal human experience. Whoa! Kitty, 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 kitty. This is a cat. This is my roommate's cat. She's not my cat, but that's alright. Her name is Anja. Kitty, kitty. You want to stay here? Yeah. I've got a cat on my lap now and I can't remember where I was. But that's thematically appropriate to this book because Kagaya Hime is a cat. And she remains in her essential nature a cat even when she's in woman's form. You're a little distraction, aren't you? You're a little distraction, Muffin. Oh, I was talking about the cultural and historical element in this, and it just pervades everything, and it seems so distant from, I guess, the modern experience of the world, but it's nevertheless completely universal. Haruame is subject to a lot of social restrictions. She's led a very, very confined life. You can just tell that the research that Keith Johnson must have done suffuses everything in this, from like little behaviors at court to everything that Kagayahime would see on her journey, or at least how Harueme would imagine it, because she's led a very confined court life, and so part of her telling this story is imagining all of these things that a cat journeying to the far reaches of Japan might see. The religious element in this also feels very universal, although it's specifically rooted in Shinto and Buddhism, which were the religions of this time in Japan. Nevertheless, the themes of, what is the meaning of life and humanity and everything and what happens after we die are all completely universal. Do you want to say anything about this book? Do you? No. I just feel like I'm at a loss to describe all of the really poignant themes that are in this book. If you're looking for a book that really ruminates on life and mortality, this is a good book. It's a sort of reflective, contemplative read, so this isn't going to be a rip-roaring page-turner. I actually read a whole nother book while I was reading this, but I don't think it lessened my enjoyment of this at all. I think I really enjoyed just taking this a little bit at a time and letting it settle. This does seem to be a really underrated, lesser-known book. I searched YouTube and found only 2 other booktube channels that had talked about it at all, and I'm going to link both of those videos below. MercysBookishMusings did a full glowing review, and it was included in Little Spider 9's top 5 books of 2015, so I'm going to link both of those videos in the description because I'm fully aware that this is my first attempt at a video book review and I'm maybe not doing very well. I picked up this book because it was a current read for the beautifully written fantasy and science fiction group on Goodreads that I've been a member of for a while, so I'll link that group. It's a fairly small, not incredibly active group, but I've really enjoyed the books that I've read so far that the group has picked, including this one. This book is a little harder to find than some other books. My library system did not have this. I bought it used on Amazon. You can also buy it new on Amazon. I gave this a really super solid 4 out of 5 stars. I don't give a lot of 5-star ratings, and I tend to give them based on passionate whim as opposed to calculated merit. So for me, this is a solid 4-star review. Is very, very good. If you have read this book, I would love to know what you thought of it. If you have read anything else by this author, I'd love to hear about it. She's got an earlier novel called The Foxwoman that is set in this same historical setting. She's also got a short story collection called At the Mouth of the River of Bees, which I personally really would like to try out. My library does have that one. So I think that is the end of my first ever book review. So I get to go edit it now, and I have to get this kitty off of my lap. Bye for now!